All right, well, good evening and welcome to our Adult Children of Aging Parents, or ACAP. We're glad you're with us this evening. I think we have folks from multiple states joining us this evening, so that's exciting. Tonight's program is Managing on a Fixed Income. And my name is Bruce McReynolds. I'm the chapter coordinator of the Adult Children of Aging Parents here in Guilford County. We're one of 5 chapters of ACAP community. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd like for you to know that we present our programs each month on the 3rd Thursday at 7 p.m. So we'd welcome you to join us again next month and going forward at 7 p.m. for our programs. Some of the topics coming up in May on the 20th, we'll be looking at managing behaviors of Alzheimer's and other age-related dementia. On June 17th, we have caregiving at a distance. And then a little bit further down the road in July on the 15th, we'll be looking at Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal and state options. So would like to have each of you join us for those programs. If you'd like to be notified of upcoming programs, you can email us at acapguilford@gmail.com to get on our mailing list, and we can invite you for all the upcoming programs. Would also invite you to take advantage of our expert-led content in our podcast library, which can be found at acapcommunity.org. There's new podcasts coming all of the time, so keep an eye out for topics that might interest you. In order to bring our programming to you throughout the year, we have 3 great sponsors who help support all of our activities throughout the year. I'd like to thank Griswold Home Care, Providence Place, and Mount Zion Baptist Church for helping support ACAP community. Tonight's sponsor is the Age Coach. And we appreciate Cheryl Greenberg, the owner of the Age Coach, for sponsoring our program this evening. Dr. Cheryl Greenberg is a life coach for seniors and their families who are in transition, whether they are dealing with physical or cognitive changes, or they're planning new and active activities in the future. With her guidance and support, clients who are dealing with health issues, including dementias, learn about physical and cognitive changes, effective caregiving, and ways to navigate the feelings that arise with these illnesses. Clients who are planning new paths and active futures find it helpful to talk about the possibilities and plan for satisfying creative roles and adventures. Cheryl's doctorate focused on adult development and memory improvement for older adults. She's worked and taught at the UNCG School of Education, at senior communities, and for programs for seniors such as the Shepherd Center of Greensboro and the Alzheimer's Association. She's a volunteer at the Triad Retirement Living Association, the Piedmont Interfaith Council, the Adult Children of Aging Parents, and is a member of the North Carolina AARP Executive Council. So we appreciate Cheryl and the Age Coach for sponsoring our program this evening. If you have any questions during our program tonight, we'd invite you to find the chat bar or the chat box at the bottom of your screen and type in your comments or your questions. We'd love to hear from you throughout the program, and we'll be collecting those and asking our speaker to address those questions later on in the program. So let's jump into our topic of tonight's program, managing on a fixed income. So we're excited to have with us this evening Sean Young. Sean is a financial coach, advisor, and a regional vice president with PFS Investments. It's an independent firm based here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Sean has conducted numerous financial wellness workshops for school systems, small businesses, churches, and civic organizations across North Carolina. He takes a practical approach to helping hundreds of families achieve their goals and dreams to financial independence. Sean is a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, receiving his bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering. He's an active member of the Greensboro JCs. He's coached Pop Warner football, Omega fraternity, and Mount Zion Baptist Church of Greensboro. So we are excited and pleased to have Sean with us this evening. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Sean Young.
Thank you, Bruce. Hold on, let me do the quick switch over here. There we go. And let me know, somebody give me the thumbs up if you can see my screen. Still got it?
Got it.
Wonderful. Great. Well, I appreciate that great introduction. As Bruce said, I'm originally from a small town in Michigan called Detroit. Maybe you heard of it before. And I was taught, like most people, go to school, get good grades, get out and get a good job. And I was on track for that. And I was able to transition from my civil engineering to my passion as far as financial services. So let's jump right in. What I always look at trying to do is I look at it like, my mission is to help families earn more income, become properly protected, debt-free, financially independent. And what I do is I take an educational approach. I teach people what the banks and the credit cards, insurance, and mortgage companies know about money, but they don't teach us. And so we found, a lot of times people have more month at the end of the check. And so we found that hard work alone is not the answer, but we can show you how you can work hard and still become wealthy. So let's jump right in. So just think about it. How do most people manage their money? And we don't. Most of the time we get our money coming in on the 1st and 15th, and just as fast as coming in, it's going right back out. Or what most people don't realize is personal finance is taught at home, not in school. So you think about it, if Big Mama, Mima, Grandma, aunts and uncles, mom and dad knew nothing about finances, then guess what they taught us? Nothing. And so we're cyclical. So we find out, and obviously once you find out, and if you know better, you do better. So the first thing I always want to talk about is that dirty little B word, budgeting. Budgeting is that word. And so one thing you want to do is, why do you create a budget? And so let me hit my on my points here. So the reason why you want to create a budget is, one, you want to get a grip of your spending, and you want to figure out what's coming in your house and what's going out of your house. And you want to save for retirement or any type of special purchases, or now you would know exactly where all your money is going, especially if now mom and dad are on a fixed budget or fixed income. You definitely want to know where everything is going. And so you can avoid the different debt traps. And so steps to create a budget is pretty much 6 steps. And I'll knock those all out here. So number 1 is you want to find out where the money should go. Everybody's going to have fixed and variable expenses every single month. And now you need to gather all of your information and get started. One thing I always have people do when I do financial boot camps is start collecting all of your receipts. I don't care if you go get you Starbucks or if you buy a 35-cent pack of gum. You want to know where your money is going. And just think about it. Goals without plans are just wishes. Most of us are just wishing we can get a grip on it. So now you have to actually start actively taking control of that plan. The other thing is, now think about all the stuff that we buy. We have cell phones come with instructions. You got a car comes with an owner's manual. You got vacuum cleaner comes with instructions. And most of us get a paycheck, or we're going to get our Social Security, and it doesn't come with instructions. So now you want to get a grip of that. The other thing is discover where the money goes every month. If you track your receipts for 2 months, I promise you, it will tell you where all your money is going. And most of it is going, to entertainment and not any type of disposable savings or what have you. And now add it up. If you are in the black, great. If you're in the red, you need to make some adjustments and, keep up the good work. So step 1 is figuring out where the money should go. Now, this is not etched in stone. This is just an average. So based off of what you have coming into your house, your household debt should be about 30% of your income. Your living expenses should be about 26%. Taxes about 25. Any insurances and whatnot you may have to be about 4%. And anything going back to saving or investments might be about 15%. And that changes obviously as you get older, but that is kind of an ideal budget. And then step two is now you want to gather all the information. What do you need to get started? Figure out what's coming in and what's going out. And so typically, this is the real eye opener. And so you want to gather your financial statements, any investment accounts, any CDs, any old 401ks, the pension, any recent utility bills. Gather up all that information and then figure out all of your sources of income, the pension, the Social Security, the child support, alimony, any old salary. If you have funds that you're getting from the 401k, any rental properties, any dividends, gather all that information up so you can figure out what's coming in. And then you want to turn around and curate a monthly list of all your expenses. And it's going to be tiered somewhere between your fixed and your variables. And your fixed are, your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, if you have one, the car insurance. Those are going to be fixed. They're pretty much the same thing every single month. And then your variables is, maybe it might be the food, if you do go out, do any type of entertainment or what have you. And so now you want to add all of that up. And now you can kind of gather and make a budget of where everything is going. And you can build upon that. I got a budget sheet if you are, tech savvy. I have it on an Excel spreadsheet. I give you my information at the end. You can kind of use that, or there are different apps you can do on your phone where you can track your spending, and it will link it to your savings account or link it to your checking account, kind of go from there. Step three, what we talked about is discover where the money should go. And now you want to have, like I talked about, fixed and variable expenses. So your fixed are going to be the rent. It's going to be the car payment. It's going to be your internet service, the phone, the credit card payments, insurances. Variable is going to be your groceries, the gas. I mean, a lot of the stuff has kind of subsided. We're all during COVID. If you're dining out, gifts. When I do any type of financial plans or we're setting up stuff for retirement for grandma and grandpa, I can put all the best laid plans in place, but there are these little things called grandchildren, and they eat up, use up, play up, and anything that they want, they'll pull on the heartstrings of grandma. Total up all your monthly expenses. And now if your total income is greater than your expenses, then you are off to a great start. And then you can look at putting some extra money aside, not necessarily for retirement, but even for a rainy day, emergencies or what have you. And we'll talk about that later on. And now you can start paying down debt a lot sooner, because that's the biggest obstacle for us when it comes to saving, investing, or just basic living. Is the biggest obstacle is debt. That is real easy to get into, real hard to get out of, and all of us have a whole lot more than what we really want. And now if your expenses are greater than your income, now it just gives you the eye opener to say, hey, it's time for us to make some changes. And so now you want to know if you are on track or off track. At least, avoiding is not going to make it go away. So you want to know that. Step 5 is now you can make some adjustments. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Is not so glamorous. And you want to make sure, what do I need to do to start cutting my expenses and make my expenses less than my income? And, you start cutting off the frivolous stuff that we're not necessarily using. Biggest thing is your variable expenses. Look at the variable expenses first, and, maybe grandma and grandpa may not be driving as much, or maybe we don't eat out as much. It's different ways that you can figure out in there. Most of them don't have the super duper high looping smartphones. There are different places. You can get a straight talk, net 10, the cricket phone, something that can reduce it. My grandmother didn't want all of that froofy stuff. They even come back out with the flip phones, make it a lot cheaper for you so you don't have to blow your budget. And then step 6 is, now that you created a budget, make sure you review your budget on a monthly basis. And now you can track what's coming in, what's going out, make sure you kind of stay on track, especially if you are on a fixed income. So you know what's coming in. You just want to track and monitor what's going out. And you want to hedge a lot of that stuff. You want to start saving because, every year the price of goods and services are going up. And if those are going up and your income is fixed and remaining the same, there's no cost of living adjustments, you definitely want to start tracking that. And then it just takes a few minutes. You can compare from month to month, see if you're on track or off track. Then maybe you can go get you a Starbucks if you are on track. Just one, not every day, just one. And so the other thing you want to look at is pay yourself first. You want to make sure you are the first bill that gets paid out of your house. So you skim off the top, and now you want to repair your roof when it's sunny outside. Typically, as we grow older and we get toward retirement, you want to have three fundamental accounts. You want to have short term, mid term, long term. Short term is emergency fund. All of us are going to have an emergency at some point in time. We're either in a storm, just came out of a storm, or one is on the horizon. Prepare for it. If you pay yourself first, you take just some of what you have coming in and put it aside for a rainy day. So now when the emergency comes, you can write the check to make the emergency go away. Now the credit card won't be the emergency fund, or you don't have to dip into your old 401k, or if you got a CD. And a lot of times that's not what it's designed for, especially the credit cards, because you're going to get yourself further and further into debt. And now you take the card and don't keep it on your person or take it away. I know my grandmother was a big advocate of the QVC. And so we had to take that credit card and hide it from her because she would get everybody uh, can openers or sweaters or mittens. She would buy every single color, but that was her thing, and we let her have at it. Anywho, the other thing you want to look at is once you have your emergency fund, you can look at midterm kind of goals. If you want to have, you need a new refrigerator, new freezer, you need new brakes for the car, what have you. And long term, it may not be for our retirees because they're already retired. But then you want to look at if you have college savings, if you have some resources, a lot of times that goes to your grandchildren. And now you want to set that aside for college savings, for education for them, 529 plans or what have you. And so how our investment phases as we go through life, prior to you retiring, you're going to have our growth years, or what we call them our accumulation phase. You're trying to get as many eggs in your basket as possible. And then the new thing now is what's called the protection phase, where you're right before retirement and right into retirement. That's the way you want to protect all of your assets because you are used to a certain lifestyle and a certain amount of money coming into the house. And if you turn around now, if you go from a fixed income, I'll say basically when my grandparents retired, their income basically got cut in half based off the pension and Social Security. And so that is a shock to the system. And if you're used to a certain lifestyle, you can blow through your retirement assets in your first years. And that's what most advisors see. And then once you get out there, you want to protect those assets. And we'll talk about that a little later. And then you get into your income phase or your distribution year. So now you're going to take the longest vacation you're going to ever take. And that money has to last you throughout of it. That's your retirement. And so now I want you to think about becoming an owner and not a loaner. And so most of the time when we get any money, the first thing we do is we want to put it into the bank. And so what I always tell people is now when you think about it, when you put your money in the bank, what do you think they're doing with it? And so they're doing two main things with it. One, they're loaning it out, and the other thing, they're investing it. And so when you put your money in the bank, think about it. Do they give you a high interest rate off your money, or are they giving you a low interest rate off your money? Low. And then they're going to turn around, they're going to give it to Bruce on his mortgage, give it to me on my car loan, give it to Ashlyn on her credit card. And now they're going to charge us a low interest rate, or they're going to charge us a higher interest rate. High. They're in the business of making money. So now it just makes sense for you, just even take a portion of it. Doesn't it make sense to have your money working hard for you, like the banks have your money working hard for them? And so a lot of times what the prior generation that we've been taught is, hey, you can go put your money in the bank and get you like a CD, or even if you just have it sitting there getting 2%. Now, well, you're not really getting 2% at the bank, but this is just showing you we are losing buying power by having a lot of those resources just sitting there. And so let's say if you had 10,000, you get a 2% interest rate over that year, the interest on that money would be $200. But then Now you have to pay tax on it because that stuff is liquid. So now you're paying 30% off of that. That's $60. Now you're netting 140. So now your result is $10,140. But now the cost of goods and services goes up 3%. Usually it's like 3.5%, 4% every year. So really that 10,140 is really $9,800. And so you're actually losing buying power. And so what you have to look at is some different things you want to look at before you retire. And the three main things that you have in retirement, you're going to have longevity risk, market risk, and inflation risk. Longevity risk is we are living longer. When most people retire back in the day, you retired at 65, but most people's longevity was 63. So a lot of people weren't getting into Social Security. And then you have market risk. Obviously, when you go to the ebb and flows of the market, that's great when you're younger, but now that's what we talk about, those protection years. That money has to last me a longer time. And so I can take a hit of 20% market loss or what have you. Most of the people in retirement is you don't have that much time in the market. And inflation, just your cost of goods and services are going up. So you have to factor some of that in when you're in your thinking on what you're going to buy, what you're going to do. And so now you got to look at where the money come from. And so you have various sources where the money comes from. Primarily, your generation for mom and dad are going to have two. It's going to be Social Security, company pension. Some of them may have retirement plan assets or just their savings, or even if they may even go and do any type of part-time employment. And then now you want to know how much should be coming in versus how much you plan on living on, because now your lifestyle is going to change. So you don't have to drive into work. Now you think about, as we get older, the house is paid for, the credit cards are under control. And so the need for having a lot of that stuff kind of dissipates. So your lifestyle is going to change a little bit. And when I have people that are getting into retirement, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of retirements for teachers and our educators here in Guilford County Schools. So we're one of our approved vendors. And now you think about it, when teachers come out of school, they're usually 22, 23 years old, and you're eligible to max out your pension after 30 years. Well, your years tell you you're able to retire. Now you're 52, 53, 54, but now your best case scenario as a teacher, they're going to cut your salary in half. And so if I said, hey, what is your lifestyle going to look like now if Dr. Contreras said, hey, we're going to cut your salary in half, and say, man, I couldn't live off that. I was like, well, that's your best case scenario in retirement. And you still have, 6 more working years before you're eligible to any type of retirement money at 59 and a half. So it's one thing that you're eligible to retire, but you may not be financially ready to retire. So now you need to discover whether or not you're able to retire. And now how much money do you need? And that's kind of how you have to look at what your lifestyle is going to be. And general rule of thumb is most people will need probably 80 to 100% of their gross income in those early years of retirement. So now once you get used to it, what you're spending, what's coming in, and what's going out, now you can kind of factor that way. And so what will I need to spend my money on in retirement? And so now you have potential income sources as well as potential monthly expenses. And like we talked about, you got Social Security, you got the pension, you got if you got any real estate. Now you look at if you have any type of post-retirement. I mean, some people have the plan B when they work in their golden years and other incomes. And now you have different expenses. If you have housing, even if you're renting, you may have the rent on the apartment, and you have renter's insurance, utilities, your taxes, any transportation, if you got a new car. Then you want to look at needs versus wants. A lot of times we spend and buy things off of wants and not off of needs. What I typically tell, especially my younger folks, have the 24-hour rule. Meaning if you see something that you want, you need it, you just got to have it, sleep on it for 24 hours. If you wake up the next day, that feeling's still there, you just want it, need it, got to have it, then maybe you can look at purchasing it. The other thing you can think of is dollarize what you are getting ready to buy. And let's say if you're working part-time and you were making $10 an hour and something you wanted to buy was $50, now you just have to make it the conscious decision, hey, that's going to be 5 hours of work that I got to do just to make this one purchase? And so is it worth it for you? And so let's talk about Social Security benefits. And so now Social Security, when it first started in the 1930s, or we look all the way back in 1940, the main thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is when Social Security first started, like I said, your life expectancy was around 63. You got your benefits at 65. So you didn't have an influx of folks in Social Security. So you had almost 160 workers for every one person on Social Security. Now you fast forward to today, all the baby boomers and the longevity, most of us are living longer. Now you have 3 workers for every one person on Social Security. And so now there is the log jam, and the average Social Security is about $1,400 a month. And what most people don't realize, that is still taxable. So there are different things you need to look at and think about when going into retirement and when to get your Social Security. And what most people don't realize, obviously, the earlier you start taking your benefits, the less benefits you would have. So if you started like 60, 62, you are cutting your benefits by 25 to 30%. Now, what a lot of people don't know is even if you start your benefits, you do have the ability to stop the benefits, go back to work for a certain period of time, and increase those benefits. It may be advantageous. And so now you look at your full retirement age usually starts and increases if you're in your 67. So like my retirement age now is no longer 65, it's 67. Most folks that are born from 1960 or later is now 67. More than likely for the millennials, they're going to move that to 70. And there's a breakdown on based off of your full retirement age benefits. So if you are before 1953, you're going to get all complete benefits. And it kind of breaks down from there from 54 all the way through 60 or later. Now 67 is your age for you to get full retirement benefits. And they're going to keep kind of moving the bar or what have you. Now there's some other things we talked about too, is if mom and dad may have resources or they have money sitting in the bank or they have money sitting in an old account, and you may want to use that money to help create their lifestyle. Or if you don't need that money, you may want to take full advantage of it and let that money go to work for mom and dad. And one of the ways you can do that is safeguarding it with annuities. Now, an annuity, I basically call it, it's just money insurance. You are putting something into a vehicle and it's giving you the protection and like the bank, and it's giving you the growth like having your money in the market, and it's all tax deferred, and you're basically just privatizing your own money and making it into your own pension check. And there are other ways where there are short term where you can put the money in there, no cost, no loss, guaranteed. The money you put in, you can get out. And if the market is up, you're up. If the market is down, you don't lose. And so that's kind of the benefit of it. It doesn't give you all the bells and whistles of having your money in the market. It doesn't, you won't get all that interest rate protection, but you'll get more on the growth side than you would just having it sit in the bank. Another thing is when we always talk about the grandkids, I always talk about the generational wealth plan. And it's very, very simple. If you had, when folks have baby showers, now mom has multiple baby showers. They have the baby shower at the home church, then we're part of the new mega church, then they have a baby shower for them. Then her girlfriends are the Yaya sisterhood of the traveling pants. They want to have a baby shower for her. Then you have the co-ed baby shower and you bring the father in, and we got paper mache hats on our heads and Snicker bars and diapers, and we're going to play all those games. Now, instead of buying little Junior all of those clothes that dad has to take back to Target or Walmart or wherever now, what if everyone just brought $25 and you put that aside for little Junior into either a college savings plan or just put it into a mutual fund? And so now if you did a one-time investment just of $1,000, if that money was just parked, and you just look at it even at a conservative 9% versus if you did it in a growth fund getting 12%. And so we may or may not be there to see the full fruition of it. But now if you did that one-time investment, left it alone, just parked it there, set it and forget it like Ron Popeil, when Lil Junior is 67, now just even at a conservative side, you would have added 400,000 to their retirement. Or if you put it into a growth fund, now you got $3 million. Little Timmy can take half of that, 1.5, they got retirement, and now you just created generational wealth, and it kind of goes from there. There are other different ways, like we talked about before. Having generational wealth instead of generational debt is the #1 new debt now is college savings. If grandma or grandpa wants to set aside for little Timmy's education, you have 529 plans. There are UTMAs where you can gift to the children uniform transfer to minor accounts, or it's UGMA, uniform gift to the minor accounts, depending on what state you're in. Those are different things you can kind of look at to where you can get the full benefit of setting it aside and helping out the grandbabies. The other thing you want to look at, obviously, as we, some parents who have to get closer to going home to be with the Lord, make sure you have the right type of life insurance. Two main types are term and whole life, depending on their age. Life insurance is going to be based off of age and health. That's your credit when it comes to life insurance. And then some advantages to having, or the biggest advantages is having term. So you don't have the bells and whistles, you don't have the money tied to your insurance. You just have the pure insurance, keep your saving and investment, your saving and investment, keep your insurance, and now you can get as low as possible. Obviously, as you get older, if your health issues change, then you would just know going into it. There's some things you would have to pay more into. The other thing, let's go back to talking about the emergency fund, because the emergency is going to happen. And so steps on creating the emergency fund, just be prepared. #1, how much do I need? One, you want to get to at least $1,000. $1,000, what I typically get you off of the credit card crack, where you are not swiping that card off of everything. And you are not going to charge you 18 to 35% off of all of your purchases. And you are not going to call you and harass you when you going to pay you back. Now you want to get it to the point to where you can replace that credit card. And if you were still working, then you get it up to 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So when the emergency comes, that doesn't really apply to our grandparents if they're already there at retirement, but you definitely want to have some set aside to get to the emergency. And it is, think of it this way. You didn't create the debt overnight, so you typically won't get out of debt overnight. But if you set aside 25, 50 bucks, if you did 50 bucks over the course of a year, once a month, that's $600 you got saved, $600 more that you wouldn't have saved. And now you can have something for the emergency. Decide where you want to fund it. What I typically say is, if you're going to do an emergency fund, you can just really go to the bank. You want to have something liquid. You can take the credit card, put it in the sock drawer, or throw it behind the couch. So you got a G.I. Joe crawl to go get it. Don't keep it on your person so you are not tempted to use it. Then treat it like a bill. I know in our banks here in North Carolina, you can have bill pay. What I say is typically go to a different bank. And I don't know what your affiliations are or what your feel are. You can go to, I always say, go to a major bank. Go to like Wells Fargo or Bank of America. Now, they're all over the place. So if I'm in West by God, Virginia, or if I'm in Bug Tussle, Tennessee, I can go find one. If I have an emergency, they even have it now where you can go on your phone, and if you don't have your card on you, you can pull all your information off your phone and scan it on the QR codes and all that good stuff. Or you can find you a branch, and all you want to do is have it liquid and have it separate from you where you regularly bank. Excuse me. And now you just have it on bill pay, have it go right into your bank. When you get paid, or if mom and dad get the Social Security check, first bill, pay themselves, go to the emergency fund or go to whatever funds. So now they can start paying themselves first and use it for an emergency. That's what it's made for, just emergency. QVC or Ross or Walmart or whomever having a sale is not an emergency. So use it accordingly. The other thing is, why do you want to create a will? A will is affordable. You want to have a will. Well, let me back up. 60% of folks don't have a will. And the reason you want to have a will so you can decide what happens to all of your assets and it doesn't get eaten up in taxes. And we all have the cousin, the brother, when grandma gets sick or something happens to grandma or grandpa, they're the first one jumping in the casket and they say, oh my God, me and grandma, we used to write with this pen. Oh, she wanted me to have this hand sanitizer. We wiped our hands in it. Now, grandma's been sick for 3 years. You haven't you ain't sent her a card, come by to visit or anything. And so you want to make sure all the way down to the smallest things. You see the worst in folks in weddings and funerals. And just think about it. Aretha Franklin, millionaire. Prince, millionaire. 42% of their estate went to taxes. Why? They didn't have a will. 42%. And instead of having all of your stuff go to probate, and the main thing you want to have when it comes down to a will is a living trust, what's going to happen to your money, durable power of attorney. If you have mom or dad, their names are both on the house. And if something were to happen to mom or something happens to dad, you want to have durable power of attorney, or with aging parents, make sure you have power of attorney. Then if something happens, you can go sign off. I'll give you for instance. And you want to have a living will. Durable power of attorney meaning if I was ever incapacitated and I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina, and whatever my ailment, the specialist is at Duke Medical. Well, Duke is in Durham. That's an hour away from us. If I have to go there and I spend an extended period of time, I'm in a coma, and now my wife decides, hey, let's sell the house because she wants to be close to her love. She just can't see anything else because we want to make sure I pull through. Well, she can't sell a house or do any of the assets with my name on it because I have to be there and competent to sign off. If we have durable power of attorney, she can sign for me, sell the house, do whatever. The other thing is having a living will. Basically, if you want to pull the plug, wait for a miracle or what have you. Remember there was the case at Mary Shivo in Florida. Well, husband and wife, Mary talked to her husband and said, hey, if anything ever happened to me, I do not want to be a vegetable. Just pull the plug. I don't want you to go through that grief. Well, something did happen to her and she was incapacitated and she was basically a vegetable and her husband wanted to pull the plug. But mom stepped in and said, no, that's my baby. We're not pulling the plug. Well, they fought back and forth in court on and on and on because there was no will in place. And eventually they both went bankrupt fighting each other. And Mary became a ward of the state and they pulled the plug anyway. So you want to have your wishes known. You may have, for our younger folks, you may have a brother or sister that's good at rearing and steering the kids, and the other brother and sister can balance the checkbook. One may have the money, one may rear the kids, or who would they go to? You don't want strangers to map that out. If something were to happen, if you're the curator or you're the executor of your parents' estate, if something happens to you, who is next in line? You want to have that stuff mapped out. And so what that looks like, when you want to build a strong financial house, basis for any financial plan is number one, having the right type of income protection, meaning you want to be able to rent the wealth until you can obtain the wealth. And once you obtain the wealth, the other thing you work on is your budget, your retirement. You got college savings. You do retirement before college savings. You can't get a loan for retirement. Your kids and your grandkids can. Then we work on all your other goals and dreams. You protect everything with the will, and we're going to walk into bubblegum at the same time. You want to burn off your debt because that's the biggest obstacle and the biggest threat to your saving and investing. And so I looked at it from a local standpoint, and a national standpoint. Some available resources. You got the Piedmont Triad Regional Council Area Agency of the Aging, or they call it AAA as well. You have Senior Resources of Guilford County. Then nationally, you have the National Council on the Aging. You got AARP, and they have a ton of resources at your beck and call on their website for caregivers, for meals, for adult daycares, for in-home support, for legal services, you name it, they probably have it. What to do with Medicare, when to start, Medicaid, all that good stuff. And so now the other thing you want to look at too is when you get into retirement is look beyond the money. There is a human happiness curve. And so you see on this curve, the down years is usually when you get to your 45 and your 55, because now that's the biggest stress we have. You got aging parents, you got the kids, and you get charting everybody around to soccer practice and all those different things. And then you get to finally get to the point to where you can retire and you see that smile starts to go back up. So some different things that factor into retirement and not necessarily having the money, it makes you have less stress and that you can conduct the business or what have you. Is number one is your health. Make sure you stay healthy, your friendships and your family. And so there was a thing called Ikigai. Ikigai is beyond health. And so what they did was on the island of Okinawa, most of those folks did not retire. They had a longevity and they had a very long life. And so the life expectancy is much higher, and it roughly translates in a reason for being or the reason for getting out of bed every morning. And so when you look at the Ikigai, is what do you love? And then what does the world need? And what can you get paid for? And what are you good at? And so the combination thereof is your Ikigai. And so you just think about when you're getting ready to create, not only just a money factor, the other thing is your happiness factor. And so creating your retirement living plan, you got to look at contributing to different causes that can make you happier, visiting family and friends. That's usually the biggest thing. And it doesn't take much. Pursuing your different hobbies now. You can travel, start a business, going to school. And so when I say travel, start a business, go to school, yes. Even my mom started and graduated from school in her 60s and start a business. So there are different things you can accomplish just to keep active. Peter Roget, he invented the source at 73. Colonel Sanders started KFC at 65. The Iron Nun herself, Madonna Boulder, started doing she became a triathlete, and when she was running triathlons at 82. Grandma Moses, she started painting at 76, climbing up Mount Everest at 80. So there are different things in your golden years you can start doing. And so in my summation, retirement is wonderful if you have two essential things. Number one, much to live on, and more importantly, much to live for. And that is my Dog and Pony Show. I want to thank you all for indulging me and availing me time this evening. If you need anything, you see that vortex? I like that. I made that graphic right there. That is my information. And so usually if I do any type of financial boot camps, that is the email that I use, and that is my cell phone. That's my any and every time number that I get you right here. I tell everybody if Walmart open, Sean is open. And with that being said, I thank you so much. And I am going to turn it back over to you, Bruce, and open it up for questions. And or is that Miss Jennifer?
Yes, we've got some questions there. One is it allowable when they do the 5-year look back for spending down, if you mentioned donating to like the children's education funds, is that allowable when you're looking at Medicaid in the future? Do you know?
That I don't know for Medicaid.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to look at that from a if you're
it might be a gift.
If it's going toward education, they can't look back and say that's used for educational purposes. That won't be used as far as part of your income.
Okay. And you mentioned what it did if you retired, say at 62 versus 65. What does it do if you wait till 67? How much of a difference does it make if you wait till after?
You see in some cases where your retirement will go up. So the other thing I didn't talk about is they just moved our RMD, required minimum distribution. So in some cases, if you have retirement assets, you let them sit and they're growing. Before it was 70 and a half before you can touch. When Uncle Sam says, I want you have to start pulling money out of there so I can put it in the market. Basically, I can tax you. They just moved that number from 70.5 to 72. And it usually starts, it's on the irs.gov website, and it starts off the calculation about 3.5%, and it goes up every year. But from a Social Security standpoint, the earlier you start, the more they're going to cut your Social Security. And so that does factor a lot in. It's usually it's not 25, 30%. You're almost, if you're starting 62 or sooner, you're almost cutting your Social Security benefits in half. But obviously, the more you wait, the longer it is. What Social Security does is they're taking your best 35 working years. So if you hold off longer, or if you're still working, that will factor in to your Social Security. And you'll see the longer you wait, if you hit your full benefit year, you'll see your benefits go up. And so that's what you got to factor in. Can you afford to put off waiting? Can you still work? Are you eligible to do certain things? Maybe you take on a part-time job to supplement or what have you.
At what age is it too risky to put money into annuities?
You typically don't put money into annuities 45 or younger, because we are in a growth phase. Annuities are more so money insurance. There are some, I'll give you an example. There's different types. There's variable annuities. Variable annuities, they still have money somewhat in the market. So it'll go up and down, and they have different safeguards where you have a floor. So, and then you have some that are fixed income, meaning the money you put in, you're guaranteed to get out, and they're going to give you guaranteed interest rates every single year. So whenever you decide to, what we call turn the key, turn it on, and start getting the check, what it's doing is it's just taking your money, privatizing it, making it into your own pension. And it's in a nutshell, you have three different things going on. You have a death benefit, you have your account value, or what we call your walkaway money, the money you put in, and you have what they're going to base your pension off of. Those are the three things going on. And the pension money is always guaranteed, and it's going up every year. So whenever you decide to turn it on, that's when, and then usually the pension and the death benefit are about the same. And when they start turning it on, they're going to pay you a check for the rest of your life. So even if the account value goes to zero, they're obligated to keep paying you that check. So that's the benefit of having the annuity. It's not necessarily made up for growth. So I wouldn't say, obviously, you get bigger bangs for your buck the more assets you have into it, because they're going to charge you an annual fee to have those certain benefits, depending on what they are and the company. And then they have some now that are a little shorter term, where you can do 5 year, 6 year, where you don't lock your money up long term, and you can always just renew the account if you're not using it, instead of just having it sitting on the sideline.
Okay, so even after retirement, starting an annuity on a shorter scale.
You can start on a shorter scale. And so when I say you're starting an annuity, typically on the low side, you need about 25 grand. If you're starting, you see your biggest bang for your buck, or you see a more advantageous benefit, 80,000 or more if you put it in there. And basically you're saying, if something were to happen to me, or I'm hedging my bet that I won't outlive my money. And usually you'll see the threshold is about 20, 21 years. If you, obviously we're living longer, you make it past 20, 21 years, you're doing great. If something were to happen to you, whatever's left over, the death benefit, they're going to pay to your beneficiary, or it does the same thing with your spouse. Some of them, they're going to pay the same check to the spouse if you pass, and so on.
I wanted to comment, as a care manager, you showed a spreadsheet for income and expenses. And I would encourage everybody on the call to do that for your loved ones as well, even though it may be fixed income. Because when you go to DSS, because you're going to start spending down perhaps towards Medicaid, or you go to the elder law attorney to start talking about protection, or move into trust and stuff, and it's like, how long can I keep mom at home safe, or is assisted living an option for us? having a document like that ready is going to be super helpful to any of us, whether it's the folks at Senior Resources or the Area Agency on Aging. That's a good living document for all of us to have. Here's a question about long-term care insurance. What is a good age to buy in?
It is just like life insurance. The earlier you get it, the cheaper it is. And they factor in some of your own resources. And long-term care is, for those that don't know, is basically for you to do your everyday living, where you're able to brush your teeth, get up, brush your hair, do your around the house things. Somebody can come in and help you with that instead of you going into a nursing home or what have you. And the earlier you start, the cheaper it is. And they also factor in if you have some assets. There is not a cookie cutter age to say, but I know a lot of people start looking at it, or they start thinking about it in their 50s. You can see it's a lot cheaper in your 40s. And also, again, the biggest thing that factors in is if mom or dad have assets where they can put into, they have some protection, because they're going to come in and basically pay for someone to come in and be their caregiver. There is. Did I answer that question? I hope I did.
You did. Yeah. All right. Any other questions from the group?
I am trying to find, I got that budget sheet. I am trying to find my folder, and I can stick it in the chat.
John, we did have a request to see if it'd be possible to borrow your slides. I think some of the folks wanted to have that as a resource in the future.
Sure. I got to figure out how to get it. Let me see.
You can email it to me. If you're willing to share, you can email those to me and I can share it with the attendees.
Cool. Check out, if you're in the chat, I just put the budget sheet in the chat. If you can grab it from there, or Bruce, if you can grab it, you can use, that's one of the budget sheets I use for clients. That might be beneficial for you guys. And let's see. What did I do with? And I did the same thing with the PowerPoint.
All right.
So you should be able to go and grab it from the chat. The wonders of modern technology. And Bruce, I'll email both of them to you, and that way you'll have it as well. Anyone needs it, but it's in the chat. You should be able to go click on it, download it, you'll have it.
Wonderful. Well, Sean, thank you for being with us and sharing that information this evening. We appreciate your time to spend with us this evening.
Thank you. If you need anything, I'm a phone call away. You guys have a great one. Thank you so much.
We also want to thank Cheryl Greenberg with the Age Coach for sponsoring our program this evening. We appreciate her and everything that she's done to bring this to you this evening. Our next program will be May 20th, 7 p.m. on managing behaviors of Alzheimer's and other age-related dementias. So we hope that you'll join us. If this has been your first program with us, we want to say thank you for attending, and especially grateful for those that might be attending who's not your first time. So check us out on our website. You can find us at acapguilford.org, and you can email us to get on our list for future programs at acapguilford@gmail.com. So from everyone at ACAP Guilford, we appreciate you being here, and hope you have a safe evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.